Welcome to Touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton. And of course, the Jags have been in the news recently. If you have been, sleeping under a rock or something like that, you would notice that they have been. But they've been in the news recently. Of course, it hadn't been for anything good. You've got rookie quarterbacks making speeches about the drama going on and a coach that just cannot stay out of the media long enough. Of course, I usually don't do 2 shows a week, so everybody knows that. But I decided to bring this next gentleman on to discuss a man that has been in the headlines and finally got relieved of his duties, along with a team that hasn't had much success. Here to talk about Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Welcome back from the Florida Times Union, Jags beat writer John Reid. What's going on?
Man, good to be back. I think I've aged probably about 10 years since the last time I was on your show with all this drama that's been going on. Man, it's crazy when the owner says that there's been losses and drama. So a little different down here, man. I'll tell you.
No, I hear you there. It just wow, how you hanging in there, man? How you hanging in there with all this?
I tell you what, I just say this, man. I've been covering sports for 34 years. I've never been through a season like this. When I covered the Pelicans, there was a lot of drama with Tyreek Evans and there was a lot of drama with the coaching changes with that organization. But man, this season here has been like nothing that I can ever recall in the past, in the future. And it's just been, not only is this team bad on the field, 2-11, but it's just that the drama. I mean, you almost have to keep your phone with you at all times because you don't know what might, what's the next scenario or what's the next controversy or what did he do this or is this video coming out on Wednesday? And it's just, I mean, when a rookie quarterback goes up to the podium and basically declares that we got too much drama. I mean, it's something that I mean you don't see this in most franchises that it's just one thing after the next, and who could ever remember of it? I mean, I can't. I was thinking about this the other day. What coach do you know is the biggest distraction on the team? I mean, basically that's what he was. It's like the coach supposed to be like the taskmaster or the guy who's supposed to set the example. And this whole season has just been completely opposite. So it's even an understatement to say that it's been different. It's just been crazy, tumultuous. I mean, you use all those kind of words to describe this season, and
Gotcha.
it's been one of a kind. I just say that one of a kind seasons.
Gotcha. Now, this news came out at near midnight, if not past midnight, in
Yeah,
some
past
places.
midnight. Yeah, Eastern time, past midnight, going on 1 o'clock.
Now, what was your first reaction when you heard the news that Urban Meyer had been relieved of his duties?
Well, I knew he was under the gun. Just share a story with you. You know, he and Shad Khan invited all the Jacksonville media who cover the team. He invited us on his yacht on Monday to celebrate basically his 10 years of ownership, which the anniversary was that following day on a Tuesday. So we had a sort of like a question and answer session with him. And even then, I mean, we he told us that he's not going to make an impulsive move. I mean, he's going to really, think things through and make a decision on it. But the fact is that he was going to make a decision on whether or not Urban Meyer come back or not. So we were just thinking, like, if anything happened, it would be after the season. When they have their sit down after the season. And then it's just like out of nowhere, we were at practice Wednesday, and he had a news conference Wednesday morning, and it's like you're gonna fire a guy who actually started the week of practice for preparation for Houston, and he was there. I mean, he was in the building, he was on the practice field. So there's no way in the world that we thought that they were gonna have dismiss him on a Thursday morning, so to speak, since he was already. I mean, by Wednesday they pretty much putting in the game plan for Houston.
Right.
And then we saw him on the, he had his normal news conference. So we had a regular day on Wednesday. No inkling of, that this was going to go down. And it just like, I think the firing of Urban was just like the season. It just came out of nowhere. I was listening to a radio show from out in LA. I was looking at the Lakers and I wanted to hear some of the after games, interview stuff. And then they say, we got breaking news out of Jacksonville. So I go on my computer and I get this email and man, I say, lo and behold, they done fired this guy, man. I mean, I ain't see it coming. I thought it'd be, as I said earlier, at the end of the season. But man, I was totally shocked, man. And particularly the fire of that 12. I mean, officially, that email was sent at 12:40 a.m. Eastern time. And I'm just thinking, like, in my whole career, I don't ever remember a coach getting fired after midnight.
Yeah, right.
So it was out of the blue, and it's just like, man. And like I said, Mike, nothing at this point surprises me at all about nothing with this franchise right now. I mean, I wouldn't even be shocked if like Daryl Bevel, who's the interim coach, just quit on the spot Sunday or something. It's just getting so bizarre that I don't know what next might happen, and that's what everybody feels here in Jacksonville. That basically we're just trying to get through these 4 games and get to the off season and move this franchise. Hopefully they'll find a coach and just move on. I mean, it's almost been that point where if the Jaguars could forfeit these 4 games, it might be in their best interest to just do it and just go with. It's been that bad.
Oh my goodness. Now, let's see. Do you now we're gonna stay on Urban Meyer just a little bit longer. Do you ever see him coaching in the NFL or college for that matter again?
No, I don't. I think he damaged everything this year. I mean, even going back to the video, Notre Dame is his dream job. He said that many times when he was at other colleges, at Ohio State, Florida, and there's no way, even though they done made their hire, there's no way he would be fit to coach at Notre Dame, and I don't think he'd be fit to coach anywhere. I mean, I think the worst thing that Urban Meyer did, and I just say this. I don't think Urban was ready to take this job. I think the money, the lure of going to the NFL, and just the power. I mean, I think he was a guy always competitive. I want to show them that I can do it because the Bobby Petrinos and Nick Sabans didn't do it. But I can say even from the spring OTAs, I just don't think his heart was in this. I think he went out and hired assistant coaches with experience, and he kind of used that to his advantage that, I got these experienced guys and I'm going to rely on them. And I think he relied on them too much. I didn't see anything. I mean, when you watch this Jacksonville team and you watch some of those teams he had at Ohio State, it's like night and day. I mean, it don't look like he put any input in the offense. He didn't put any input in anything, and it just seemed like he was coasting. And I said the other day, it just seemed like he was a head coach. He was coaching retired, I mean, that's what it looked like. And then you see a guy. I mean, I can go back to October. I've never heard of a coach that don't go back with his team, particularly after a loss, unless they had a death in the family or a extreme emergency. But when the guy don't come back with the team, when you done lost on a national televised Thursday night game, and you don't come back with your team, and then the next day all these two videos come out that go viral, and it's like, what is this? I mean, I said back in October that this guy is not going to survive this season. I said that in October. I basically said that he's not going to be back here after this season. And it just seemed like some people even saying, I can't disagree. It just seems like fire me. He would just say, I'm going to do enough to get fired. So I can collect on this contract and move on. I mean, I can go back to the LA Rams game 2 weeks ago. James Robinson got pulled out of the game. And after the game, we're going to ask that question. So did he get pulled because he fumbled and he got benched, or did he get pulled out because he was injured? And the head coach told us that you need to talk to Bernie Parmalee, the running back coach. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. Now, the head coach can't give a direct answer. And then for 3 days after that, for 3 days, he didn't give a direct answer on whether or not he was benched for the fumble, or if he was benched for just getting out the game because of the injury. And I've heard reports, when a guy like him leaves, you get all. I'm starting to hear more things that happen. I mean, this guy was like a dictator, basically. He was treating these guys. I mean, you can't not treat grown men. And it's the same problem that Tom Coughlin had here in Jacksonville. You cannot, with this generation right now, you can't speak. I mean, you can't demand and belittle and you're going to do this and expect that those guys going to follow through and say, yes, sir, coach. Those days are over with. Yeah, that might have worked in the 80s and the 90s, or that might work at Ohio State when they're a freshman and sophomore or junior. But you're not going to tell these grown men that, hey, you're not going to disrespect them and expect to get the effort that you're asking. And right. it's just been one. I mean, to be honest, this has been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare for the city of Jacksonville. It's been a nightmare for the franchise. And the owner even saying, I've never heard an owner say that we got losses and drama. That's what makes it different than any other. They've had 10 losing seasons in 11 years, but this year is different because we had both losses and drama created by your head coach. Now, it's like I'm watching one of those reality shows or something on cable.
Oh my goodness! Now, I have to ask.
Yeah.
What's been the mood around there since Urban Meyer's dismissal?
I'll tell you what the mood was yesterday at practice. The music was playing. Ben Barch, bless his soul, he's from Minnesota. Big kid. He was doing the funky chicken at practice. He was dancing. Jihad Ward was dancing like he was going back in the 80s and doing break dancing. Man, the guys was moving like I ain't seen them move in about 3 years here. It was a fun practice, and it was almost like, man, the Grinch is gone.
Just in time for Christmas, right?
Yeah, that's what it felt like, man. Those guys were spirited. The practice, we were out there for about 20 minutes, and it's just like totally different than what it was a day ago, 24 hours ago. And those guys were dancing, having fun, high-fiving. And spirited practice. You can hear them talking on the field, and they go out there covering DBs, going after the receivers, and it was like a new day, man. So to answer your question, I think I think it's just been a total different type of feeling among that franchise and those players right now. It just seems like the cloud has been lifted. We can be ourselves. We can enjoy this game. We ain't got to worry about this and that or whatever. And we just can go out and enjoy the game. I think they're going to beat Houston. I haven't picked them to win a game all season. But, it just seems like, man, they finally got a situation where they can just concentrate on football and don't have to worry about what this guy might say, do next, or kick somebody or whatever it might be with Urban. It's been that crazy.
Now, I've got one other question about Urban Meyer, and then we're going to move on and talk about the rest of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But where do you rank Urban Meyer's tenure among coaches that have been in Jacksonville over their existence?
This got to be the worst. I mean, when you look at all the controversy, I mean, the guy can't remember his own. I mean, there's been situations at news conferences where he literally don't know the first names of his own players.
Wow.
You know, you can't have a situation here with this franchise that's already. I mean, you know, Jaguars is what the reputation, losing reputation, not respected around the country, and then you got a head coach, and I say this, when he used to go to the podium because he was mispronouncing names, and sometimes he didn't even know the player from the opposing team, that they had to put like the the play card there for him to look down and know who he was talking about.
Oh my goodness.
And I mean, now Mike Mularkey was a bad coach here. You know, they went 2-14, I believe, and he only lasted 1 year. But he didn't embarrass the franchise like this guy. He embarrassed them, you know, as far as like performance on the field. But they have never had a coach that come in, celebrated, come in with 3 national championships, come in when an owner said the day that he hired him that this time I got it right, and come in and see all of it explode in their face. And this is the worst hire that Shad Khan made since he's been owner of this franchise. And this is, I mean, you know, you make mistakes like this, Mike. It's this not a 1 year fix it and it's gonna be okay situation, man. I mean, it's, you know, everybody says that, you know, you offer the money and the free agents come, but when you look at on this franchise, and you even go back to Tom Coughlin and the controversy with that situation when he was finding guys, you know, you show up 3 minutes late to a meeting, you getting fined $10,000. Don't think that don't spread around the league among players. And I mean, these players are saying, man, don't, in no way in the world, don't. I mean, I don't know if that's the right place. You know, if you got somebody that's offering an eighth of the amount of money that the Jags, you know, somewhere similar to what they're offering, and I think that guy is going to go to the other team just based on their reputation of how they treat players. And you know, another thing in Jacksonville, and I don't know how it is there in Nashville, you know, and I say that the African American players in Jacksonville don't have. I mean, I don't. There's no average. I mean, they don't. You know, you don't see them on commercials. You don't see them on cars. They don't endorse products here. You
Wow.
know, and guys look at that. You know, I mean, it's like, and nobody says nothing. But man, I've been here covering the team since 2017. The only person that former player that I saw that had a car dealership commercial was Jalen Ramsey. That's it in 4 years.
Wow.
So
Wow.
you go through that, and you go through the situation in this town. I mean, it's going to have an impact. I just think right now it's too many factions. There's too much you know, things going on where, you know, there's going to, man, you got a whole staff. The guy, Urban Meyer, hired 30 coaches on this staff. And you got, they like, the general manager is still here. He don't know if he's going to be here when the season over with, but you can see the power moves right now. The second day after this guy got fired, power moves are being made right now, you know. Like, they're trying to figure out who's staying, who should I connect with, and all this kind of stuff. And it's just, I mean, if you want a one-on-one on how to run a franchise, don't follow the book that they use here with this Jaguar team, because it is. I mean, I can't say it any clearer than that. It's too much going on, man.
I hear you. I understand. Now, we're going to jump off of the Urban Meyer train. I'm pretty sure we've talked about his tenure and him enough. But the interim coach of the team is offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell, which some may know as the guy that loved, the guy that Brett Favre loved as his offensive coordinator. But we're going to talk about something else there. And of course, he was in Seattle too, but
Yeah.
a lot of people remember him from Brett Favre.
Right.
What sense do you get about Bevel as the interim coach of the team?
So he hadn't done his job.
What's that?
I say he has not done his job.
Uh-huh.
You can't be offensive coordinator and you got the top rookie number 1 pick who hadn't thrown a touchdown pass in 4 of the last 5 games. And you go back to the last 6 games since they had their coming off their bye week, they're averaging 9.1 points a game. I mean,
Yikes.
you got to be a play caller that and I say this that they don't have they don't have the talent. I mean, to be honest, they don't have enough speed at wide receiver. They got a bad offensive line. They're not protecting Lawrence. He's getting pressured from the middle, from the side, everywhere you want to think about it. He's getting pressured in that pocket. But man, you got to come up with some way to get points on the board. He made a statement earlier this week that he declared that James Robinson is the starting running back, and he's going to be he's going to be used in that way. But the reality is this: I think that the one thing that Urban Meyer did, he allowed his coordinators to be themselves. I mean, he didn't micromanage as far as like play calls and those kind of things. So my question is, if when you was the offensive coordinator and you got this kid basically averaging like 8 carries a game, and then you don't overrule, or whoever should have overruled that if he's your second best player on offense and you're not utilizing him. I mean, you go back to the Tennessee game. I mean, that game was 10-0. It wasn't like it was 40-0 in the first half. So the game was still in doubt. And this kid got like 5 carries. He wasn't getting any yardage, but still, you might keep giving the ball. He might break one at some point. But he had like 5. I think he finished the game with 6. He had 6 carries for 8 yards or something like that. But man, when you can't have an offense, you got to run the football unless you get behind, and this team has got behind a lot. But in order for you to open up the passing game, you got to utilize the run game to get that going with some play action passes and things. So I just think that he has not been there's. I mean, the offense just looked vanilla. I mean, it just hadn't looked where we watch teams around the league. They run bunch sets. They put 3 receivers on one side. They put receivers in motion. We don't see that here with this team. You look at San Francisco. They utilize running back. Sam used as basically a running back, and we got Laviska Shenault here, and it's like they don't know how to use them.
Yeah, they technically don't. I've watched a few of those, and I'm like, why are they not using him in different ways?
Yeah. When you need points, and you, you signing guys basically off the street, and he got no deep threat ball at all, and it's just like, man, you got to find some way to keep the defense off balance. And I just think that, man, they don't have to worry about. They don't put the safety in the box. See, when you play Jacksonville, you don't have to worry about double covering a receiver. That they're not going to throw it deep, and I just think that it's just not enough creativity in the offense, and that's he's the person to blame for that.
Got you. Now, I'll say this: one guy that could potentially be a candidate for this job is the former number 1 pick of the franchise, Byron Leftwich, who's currently the offensive coordinator of the the offensive coordinator of the defending Super Bowl champs, Tampa Bay.
Wow.
One day I'm gonna be able to spit that out right. But anyway, how realistic is it to think that he could be the top choice for the job given his history with the organization?
Well, I think they should strongly consider him. The only thing I think that's against him right now is having a situation like Urban Meyer. I think that he's going to look, or I think Shad Khan going to look seriously that you have to have, you can't take a chance, basically, at this point. because of what you've done in your past hires, And I think the only thing against him is he's never been a head coach before. That's the only thing I think against him. But I'll say this, man, this Leftwich has done everything right. I mean, he's a former, first round pick here in Jacksonville. He was tutored by a great coach, even even when he was in Arizona. He started out as the quarterbacks coach. He haven't, his path has been learn, and he's ready. To be honest, and I wouldn't have a problem with Byron Leftwich being the head coach. I mean, a lot of people say, well, anybody can be the offensive coordinator when you got a guy like Tom Brady, but that's we sometime or another we can always make excuses, But I like to see opportunity. You don't know how somebody going to do anything if they're not granted the opportunity.
Right.
And this guy wouldn't come back here in Jacksonville to be a failure. I mean, I think he would put every ounce into it. I think they need a coach in this franchise who can do a great job of relating to players. I felt since I've been here that they have not had a head coach who can relate to the players on the team. I mean, Doug Marrone was a nice guy, but there was, he didn't really relate. I mean, the players really didn't relate to him. And I think that's that, a young guy with a lot of energy. They haven't really went that direction yet. And I think, more than anything, this guy, the owner, got to get it right,
Right.
and
Right.
getting it right might be taking a chance. He made the mistake, the Urban Meyer, but I hope that the Urban Meyer mistake doesn't take away an opportunity for someone like Leftwich. Just
Gotcha.
A guy who's really honed his skills, and time is due, and he's done a great job down there in Tampa.
Right. Right. Now, we talked about Leftwich. What are some other names that you think we could hear regarding the coaching job down there this offseason?
Well, I think Eric Bieniemy, he interviewed here the last time. I think he'll get an interview. I think that Doug Peterson will be someone that they'll look at. I think that Jim Caldwell, just from experience, I think the age situation, he's 60. I think he'll be 67 in January. But they need a stabilizer also. I think just as much as having someone that can relate to the players, I think they gotta have someone also that has that skill set to be a common for, just be a guy who can put out all the fires, and has experience at doing that. And I also a guy like Marvin Lewis, you know, when he was in Cincinnati, he kind of went through a lot of things to turn that franchise into being build that franchise into a playoff contending situation up there, and experience. I think he's right now. He's at Arizona State. He want to
Right.
get back into the league, and a lot of people here talking about like Josh McDaniels from the Patriots offensive coordinator. The fact that he's doing a good job with Mac Jones, and his track record is that he's a good guy that can help develop a young quarterback. But I don't know, man. All I know, this guy got to get it right.
Right.
He got to get this right. And to be honest, Mike, I wouldn't even if I was Shad Khan. I wouldn't even put the decision in my hands. I would allow. I think they have to get a GM that the first of all. I think he should spend money and get the best player personnel guy that he can get, and then let that player personnel person make the decision. And I'm talking about a player personnel guy that's not like a Tom Coughlin. I'm talking about one that's, in this generation and and knows this game inside and out. A great should be a great talent evaluator. Put the time and the effort. Tell the public that this is going to be at least a 2-year rebuild. Make every move that needs to be made to get that roster to be competitive. And then I also think that you got to put yourself in a situation that you got to base your talent, everything on to win your division. That you got to do everything to put yourself in order that you can beat the Titans and you can beat the Colts. And whatever their strength is, you got to make that your strength. Because if you watch it every year, they're getting beat inside. The Titans defensive front overpowers the Jaguars offensive line and vice versa on the other side of the ball. And they don't physically can the Jaguars cannot compete physically with the Titans. So if you know that's your weakness, then don't bring in these guys that's not that type of player. So you got to get some physical players on that offensive line, but you got to build your team based on these are the two heavyweights that have been beating you upside the head for the last few years, and you got to find linebackers and physical defensive front guys that can deal with Derrick Henry. And that's where you build from the ground up. And I think Leftwich can do it. He's been in that. I mean, he knows what it takes to build a team roster. Maybe Jim Caldwell could do it. Hey, maybe the enemy can do it. Or Doug Peterson. Just sitting back a year. Since he lost his job with the Eagles, and but get the right guy who can do that.
Right. Now we've talked about it a lot, and talked about the decision that Shad Khan has to make. How much pressure do you think is there for him to get this right?
He should have pressure on himself because he fumbled the ball on that Urban Meyer hire. There was people even saying, even before he became like this candidate to get this job, that that nobody knew how he was going to handle losing. He never coached in the NFL before, so there was a lot of gambles and a lot of red flags that he just overlooked because he liked Urban Meyer because he's a big donor for the University of Illinois where he went at, and he just saw Ohio State every year would just demolish his college team. But you can't base that kind of stuff, man, on an NFL level. And he got to get it right. I like I said, I think the guy should just take it out of his hands, go get a consulting firm or whatever you need to do. Get at least 4 strong candidates, and don't put yourself in a situation where you totally got to make that decision on your own. Get a general manager who has experience in the NFL, knows what it takes to build a team, and let him be in that interview process and get the right guy. But he's under the gun. If he get this wrong, it's going to be hard for these fans to come to attend these games. It all matters about filling the stands, and if they get it wrong, then we talking about another. We speaking about at this time next year, and they still 2-11 with Trevor Lawrence, where you basically wasting. You wasting years with your franchise quarterback.
Right.
So you got to get it right, it should be pressure on them. To be honest, this franchise has lost 10. They've had 10 losing seasons in 11 years. If that's not a wake up call, I don't know what is. And another thing is, I've been to other places, man. It's like, hey, they may not never get to the Super Bowl, but they always talk about we got it's trying to be excellent. I don't hear that talk here. I don't hear the talk that, man, we want to get to the Super Bowl. Yeah. Even when they won in 2017, I never heard that. But if you go to other franchises, that's all they talk about. Your players talk about it. The first thing come out their mouth, man, we want to make it to the Super Bowl. Whatever it takes for us to sacrifice and get to that point, that's what our goal is. I don't hear that being a goal here. And that's where the culture change got to happen. You got to strive for excellence, man. You can't strive for, I hope we go 8-8.
They can't strive for mediocre average. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I definitely want to say thank you for taking the time to kind of bringing us into what's going on there in Jacksonville. If you would let everyone know where they can reach out to you and what all you have going on out there.
Yeah, well, we writing all the drama on Jacksonville.com about this football team, and I'm sure they're going to be more with these 4 games to go. But it's on Jacksonville.com, and my Twitter handle is John Reid at 64, and that's where you can reach me.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you this, man. The only other drama that could probably be left is a player retires at halftime. But we've seen that before in Buffalo. So hey, you never know that. All right. Well, thank you for coming on, and everyone, you've been watching and listening to Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.